Call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
How are you, sir?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Who would like to take minutes?
Mike, take minutes?
I can't participate and take minutes at the same time.
Neither can any of the rest of us. Anything else?
Okay, someone has to volunteer or I pick.
Yes.
Who has a pad of paper? Seriously? Aaron, would you like to take minutes?
I'd be delighted.
Thank you. Thanks for volunteering. Mike, I guess I'll,
I'd be delighted. What's your name again?
I guess first I'll say thank you for all those updates the other day. I found them quite useful and interesting. I'm not sure everybody else has gone through them or has any comment on them.
Just because Sasha was a little bit.
Yes.
I had a question. In the note from Chief Clark, you mentioned that if someone goes out on disability due to an on-the-job injury, that we have insurance that will reimburse for the overtime expense for that.
We're reimbursed for a portion of their salary. Yep,
Is that the same case with the fire department as well?
yes,
Okay, because that wasn't outlined in Chief Clark.
yep.
Do we know what that portion is?
I forget off the top of my head, and that goes into the general fund. It
Goes
doesn't
in
go
a-
to their accounts.
Goes into free cash,
Right.
correct? Yeah.
But it's not 100%
No.
of the... Okay. So I guess I'm going to jump out of order here, hopefully that's okay. We don't have, as far as I know, remember, departmental liaisons. Big ones, to me, would be police, fire, school. I will entertain someone nominating or volunteering for police. Want it? You can have it then. Fire.
I already got one.
Those and so.
I already got one, so I'm good.
Nope.
You'll
Beat
take it?
fire department.
Schools? All right. I would recommend between now and when we get into the budget season to have met with your respective group. I would also recommend that if we have questions, that we send them accordingly.
Do we need a vote on that? Do we need like have a?
Yeah, I
Do we need a vote on
I
that?
think we usually have in the past.
I think the chairman can assign them.
I think chairman can assign them. I just didn't know if we had a vote. So. And that's it.
I have done this in the past, I am not volunteering now, but I do think water and sewer is big
Yes.
enough to probably have somebody.
I was at that, when I first came on, I was on water and sewer, and it is a very arduous task.
It's a strange mix
Yeah,
of things.
yeah, it's a lot, it's a commitment, it's a lot of information that is given out, and you need to follow up
And
on.
we're looking for a new superintendent now. and
In March.
Might be a good idea to have someone in water and sewer as well.
All right, so police is Walter, fire is you. Amy is school. Who wants to be water and sewer? You.
I've been there, I've done it.
Yeah, and it's,
Oh, come on.
Bonnie does.
I nominate Bonnie.
We shouldn't do that in her absence.
Wow.
All right, I will take the bullet on water and sewer
Thank you, Aaron.
and seek some guidance from you later. Oh, here's the water and sewer guy.
Just say no. Just say no.
Yeah, just say no.
Douse you with water.
All right.
Chairman,
Those, yes?
just have a question. What's the role of the Finance Committee representative? I mean, it's new to me, so, what information is relayed, or is there two-way?
When I did it for the police, I just, met with the chief and just said, how do you run this thing?
I think it was kind of, I was going to say, we're the conduit or the point person between Finance Committee, so we'd channel the information. If they had a concern, they would come to us
Yeah.
directly, the point person. We'd collect the information and then, collectively distribute it out to the committee.
When I was doing the water sewer, I didn't, press anything, but I made myself available, and from time to time, I got both calls and personal calls from the water superintendent, and he would call me and say, I really would like you to be at this meeting tonight, because we got this sort of thing, and I think some advice might be useful. And so then I would try to go, but I didn't go otherwise. I sort of,
Right.
but he used me a good deal to both as a sounding board for whatever I was worth, and also as a conduit, and also wanted me to come to some meetings and make comments. So did all three of those things, but not on a regular basis. I didn't go to every meeting. I didn't do anything
Right.
of that sort.
Right, I wouldn't expect, like water and sewer, I wouldn't expect Aaron to, go to every meeting they have, because that would get a little much. But again, when I did police, it was like, I talked to him, what was his concerns, what can we do to help? I got a tour of the, station and, that kind of stuff, so that's really it. I don't know how much deeper we'd get into it.
More what they need.
Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty much for next year, because the lighting festival is pretty much.
Yeah, and you know what, and we're gonna, move forward, we'll plan, this is the day we're gonna make stuff.
So besides Amy's one question, any other question on
Calendar map.
the handouts that were kind of sent out Monday?
I'm not really looking.
Walter?
Is there something in particular you were going to discuss or interested in reviewing?
No, I forwarded the questions that we all had. This was the information back, so,
Just one thing, maybe it was an overview I might have missed, but I noticed in the notes that it said the highway department was going to have a follow-up.
You didn't get that attached?
No, I didn't get that attached. We didn't get it.
See if it's in your packet. It's in your packet tonight, I think.
Yeah.
I think we should have. That
Wasn't in the E-version, so.
now,
it was very popular last year.
It's,
They made a lot of money off of it. It was like,
Says memorandum on it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we didn't have, it wasn't in the E-version.
Yeah, basically, I know one of the questions was how do you determine what roads? And as Keith said in his report, that twice a year they look at the roads
Yeah,
to assess damage and see which ones they'll put on their schedule for the Chapter 90 repairs. And he does do a great job. If you see Norton's roads compared to other towns,
oh,
I know a lot of towns just, they store up their Chapter 90 money instead of using it every year. waiting for a big project to use it on, but it's much better if you do what you're supposed to do with it, and do roads every year to keep them up to speed before they deteriorate so bad that it becomes more expensive to take care of it.
But it was, I mean, how many people came to?
You also, I think a mistake a lot of towns make, you can use Chapter 90 to buy trucks, but the more you use to buy trucks rather than using your capital, the less you have to do road work with, so it's really not a good idea.
My couple of questions, just on the health insurance.
Yep,
This is a monthly invoice?
yes,
And so this is now, how does that work? We're in a group
Yep.
of X number of towns, 5 or 6 towns.
yep,
The experience rating is based on that whole group.
it is.
So this monthly charge goes to that group. Now, is that what we're assessed, or is that what the payment is, or it's one and the same? So meaning, they're probably playing Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right.
Some.
We set the rates,
Yeah.
and that's the rate for the whole year. So our rate doesn't change during the year, so it's just based on what the premiums are from Blue Cross Blue Shield.
So when you set the rates, you go through experience ratings.
Right.
You come back and they say, this is gonna be our rate. Is there a premium added on to that?
Yeah,
So that experience, does it break out Norton versus all other? Or
No,
Just,
just the
this is the
group.
whole group and the way it's acting now? And has anything changed as far as the group, people withdrawing, people coming in?
Yeah, this year, we lost Mansfield and North Attleboro dropped out of the group, which should help our experience rating because they had a lot of higher claims. So that should be good for us.
Okay. And this is for the whole town? This is schools, this is town hall,
Yep, retirees,
retirees? How long do we cover retirees? Forever?
say that again,
How long do we cover retirees? Forever?
until they die.
And then you even provide things to their spouses.
And then, okay. So, and this is kind of a general comment for all of these. What's the reconciliation process? We're getting assessments, so I see the schedule back from the town to the schools saying, these are the assessments. Who actually reviews the actual assessments that, one, we receive, two, we pay for accuracy, for
The treasurer's office does, and also the group we belong to, the Southeastern Mass Health Group.
Yep.
We have auditors come in every year to make sure that everyone is doing the proper notifications and checking to make sure that, like if someone gets divorced, there's a certain things that have to be sent out. And so the auditors that audit the group come in to make sure that the treasurer's office is doing all that properly.
okay, the qualifying events and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then just on the schools, you got a whole bunch of different amounts received. So you have the normal Chapter 70, you have assessments that are in here, you're having others. But is it the schools that review to make sure the per pupil reimbursement is accurate? Or they send in some form that says, this is our enrollment for this period of time. We expect X back.
Right.
And they review X back. And that's part of our normal review. It's not part of the annual audit.
Right. And the school business manager and the town accountant work on the reports that go to the state. And the schools monitor that every year to make sure they're getting what they should be getting.
Okay, and the town does the same for any of those reimbursements. So if it's Chapter 90,
Right.
if it's,
Yeah,
okay.
like Chapter 90, James, the town accountant keeps a separate account for that. And he monitors everything when we bill them and when we get payments to make sure it balances out.
Okay. And then on the TIF piece, I know you said there's only been one, I'll call it non-compliance issue with our TIFs. But the state actually reviews, so if they say there's gonna be manpower involved,
Yep, they
How
have
does that
to,
reporting work?
they have reports they have to file with the state every year. And obviously, the state has a record of how many employees companies have for the unemployment insurance and everything. So they know how many employees, if a company says, you know, when they start their TIP, they have 100 employees and they're gonna have 5 hires every year for 3 years, they better have 115 after 3 years or they get decertified.
So it's as simple as that. Attrition doesn't fall in if they run on hard times, because the unemployment numbers vary.
Right, and that's what happened to the one company that was decertified. They couldn't, probably was hard times and they couldn't keep up the numbers, so
Okay.
they were decertified.
So then how does that work as far as the town? So we gave concessions, they get decertified, so any of those concessions are out the window, and now it goes regular tax rate.
They're out, but then they
Regular
become
property.
100% taxable.
Okay. And then that rolls into the bottom line, I'll call it premium, if you will. So it goes into the overall assessment. The assessors are notified now, okay, this company, if it's all property tax or whatever it is, this company is decertified. Now you go in and do a full assessment.
Right.
So there is that communication.
Well, they are fully assessed, but they don't pay the taxes.
Yep.
So, in other words, if a building is getting a TIF, the value of that building is still in the tax levy. So it's being taken on by all the other taxpayers. And then if they're decertified, they pay the 100%, it's not spread out over the rest of the
So
taxpayers.
the value goes into the coffers, but the
Yes.
actual payment is reduced.
Right.
And how does that reconciliation piece work to the town? You're expecting, the property value is X. They're going to tax the rate, X rate, at the proper tax rate, expecting a payment of Y. They get a payment of, we'll say Z. Who reconciles that difference to make sure it's accurate?
If someone doesn't pay their full
No, no,
tax,
they pay the TIF, but like you
Yeah.
were saying, the full assessed value goes on, times the applicable rate. The town's tax bill says, okay, full rate times the rate equals X, say it's $1 million.
the assessors, the Board of Assessors every year reviews all the TIFs, and they determine, they check the percentage based on the approved TIF that someone should have for that particular year, and that's how they set the tax bills. And they send all the tax bills to the treasurer collector, who sends them out.
So that's why, so that's part of a reconciliation process. That piece goes into the coffers, and then the bills go out after you figure out what the
Right.
dollar, okay, all right, that's what I was missing. Okay.
Just a follow-up on the auditing. Is that, it's an annual audit, is it a rolling audit, or is it a complete audit? Is it schools, towns, same private, third-party company? I mean,
For our audit or for the health insurance?
for townwide?
Townwide, we do an audit of all town departments, including the schools, every year.
Right. Is it à la carte, or is it, I mean, is it a complete audit? Do you pick certain departments or line items every year, and then,
They'll do more in certain departments. If I request, if I have a concern about something happening, or and on their own, they pick certain departments that they're gonna go more in depth on certain years. They don't do it every year on every department, go in deep,
Yeah.
a deep dive.
So they do somewhat of a variance analysis. They'll say the variance from one year to the next is high in this account,
Right.
let's look at it.
Right.
Okay. So when we define that scope, we do have some say into the scope of the audit.
Yes.
My question always is in that audit, so when they do any account, do they look for, and I can only use the schools as an example because it's the one I can think of, but if the school bottom line budget, they want to add a position, can they pay salary and book it to a supply line? Sure. They can't, but that's, I'm just, now will the auditors come
They
in?
can't book it that way. They have to transfer,
They have to
they
move
can
the money.
transfer money out of an
From that
expense line
supply
item.
line back up to
Yeah.
salary?
The school committee
That's what I-
has to
okay.
vote on it,
Right,
but it has to be,
agreed.
it has to be accounted properly.
Okay, so there's really, if they do a review as far as an audit,
Right, so if they go, when they go into the schools, they'll look at all the votes that the school committee took
Yep.
to allow transfer of money out of an expense to salary, and then look to make sure that that's the way.
okay. And that's always done at school committee meetings, they vote to move funds from X to Y.
Right.
To cover whatever, and they give you the reason why in the minutes.
Yeah.
except school choices,
But I would assume they vote on that, the schools vote on that also to use school choice money for a certain purpose.
Just that that's
Town meeting doesn't.
not part of our budget.
Right,
It's
right.
extra money that they have, but they have to handle it exactly the same way.
Yeah, they'd have to appropriate it to an account.
Yeah.
But our numbers on the health insurance are running really good this year. So, you know, we do have a pretty good surplus that we can use to lower our rates if we have to.
So that's what I was curious. So that premium that you're adding on stays in the, I'll call it collaborative,
Yes,
and you can use that based on a vote to offset any increase in premium,
Yep.
potentially decrease.
we have done that in the past. We try to make sure it's around 3 million, the surplus that we hold there. And when we get above that, we can use it for reduction of the rates. And we have done that in the past.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Mike, on the monthly summary that James sends out, I'm assuming you guys, you know, review that. So at what point does a variance kind of catch your eye?
I would say in December, you start looking to make sure, and if we see a variance that a department, a certain line item looks like it's not gonna make it to the end of the year, then we'll start questioning the department head on that.
Yeah, because I didn't go through this whole thing. I stopped at communications. But at that point, I saw their overtime at like 46%. And I'm like, well, you're a third of the way through, you're almost at 50% of your budget. At what point does that raise a red flag that, you know, it's not gonna make it?
As I said, in December,
December.
we would,
But the accountant, every month, sits down with each department
Yeah.
chair and reviews it.
yeah, he knows.
The chief does.
Right.
If you want to focus
Yeah.
on overtime, both chiefs do.
Right.
I don't happen to know that for a fact.
Well, I'm just saying each department head
Well,
does.
yeah, but I'm saying,
Yeah,
but if you're looking at the bigger line items, the bigger overtime items would come from two departments,
right.
fire and police.
And the chiefs have been good at that. You know, they know like the police department knows the shifts that absolutely have to be covered. And when the overtime gets tight, they can leave some shifts unfilled if they're not during the busy, like Friday, Saturday nights. And, you know, the fire department knows that if their overtime really started looking bad, they can't go below 7. They try and keep 9 on, but if they if they're down at 8, they can operate when it gets tight. So they need two men on. If a vehicle goes out, it has to have 2 men. And those 2 ambulances, they're out all the time. It's unbelievable how much they're out. So there's 4 right there. And, you know, if you're down to 7, that means you only got 3 guys left in the station, so it gets tight.
All right. Let's see. So, no further questions on point number 1 of the agenda? Any of those other,
I just have one last one. It's on the retirement part. I know there's 2 different retirement systems, and you have 2 different reviews, basically. And I'm just wondering, is there ever that follow-up with both town, school? I know the process here says school does theirs, town does theirs, town looks at town only, and then the schools, do they review it and then circle back with everyone to say?
They do.
Okay.
And the teachers themselves, they're all in the Mass Teachers Retirement System, so we don't pay anything into that. Bristol County, we do.
Right, okay. Thanks.
We hit upon two. I'll leave it until our next meeting. Are there any topics that people would like to learn more about as part of the Finance Committee? I know that's a broad, kind of question, but, you know, I can't say any of us are experts, so if there are topics that we want further information on, love to hear about it. Aaron?
Let's see if I can keep minutes and ask you this question at the same time. We had talked briefly, I think before the last town meeting, about possibility of sitting down and just going through the financial report.
Yep.
And you know, personally, having labored through it, to provide you with a list of specific questions that I have would be tedious for both of us.
How many questions do you have?
Well, a bunch, right? I mean, by the time we start to get into the details of it, you know, we can end up, you know, doing this ad nauseum. But personally, I think it would be a night well spent for myself if somebody very familiar with it were to just start at the beginning and walk through it, and in a lot of cases, put it in English, and allow us to discuss and just ask questions about it as we go through it. Because who among us who've, and I hope some, but you know, who among us who you know, sit there and read through that whole thing, know what each and everything in there means and is?
Probably none of us. But with that said, unless we can get the auditors to show up for an evening, I'd almost say you need
The
to.
auditors will be coming to a selectmen's meeting once their audit's done, so I'll let you know when
That may work. To go to that meeting, because I'm sure they'd provide some insight, but otherwise, I'd almost say to put the questions out there and send them to me. And then some of that, sadly, I do this for a living, some of it I can probably answer, some of it I probably can't, because it may be town-specific. So I'd really ask, in that sense, that the major questions kind of get put to paper or computer screen.
But even when the auditors go to the Board of Selectmen, there's no way they're presenting that whole report in verbatim. You're reading, it's a pre-read.
Right.
Very high level of saying, okay, here's your scope, here's your internal control,
Right.
here's your failure. They're not gonna get into the level that Aaron's talking about, even to have them.
Right, they would just talk on the town, they usually talk on the town's financial position,
Right.
how it compares this year to last
Right,
year.
okay.
And they have a letter of concerns that they have, if there's certain areas they have concerns, findings that they found, they'd talk about those.
All right. But there would be somebody in town hall that could probably answer
Right.
a lot of the questions. You wouldn't have to go right to the auditors.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, if the chairman gets the questions,
Yep.
then.
Yep.
Right. So if I can get the questions, then we can try to get the answers.
Okay.
And again, I would almost ask, so, in the audit fee, because nothing is free, would they be able to come here a night? An hour?
I don't think they'd include that in their fee. We don't pay them that much to begin with, so.
Yeah, had to ask. All right.
Special town meeting?
Special town meeting, I was gonna ask about that, when the,
So, I'll get back to you on a date, but it would look like you would have to meet on December 19th. Because,
we have to,
Spec- the special town meeting with the warrant has to be posted on December 27th. So you probably don't want to be meeting the day after Christmas, so.
So 19th's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
is this a, based on what you responded to me, is this just a one
The,
meeting, quick in, quick out, or?
It should be. The selectmen were approached by a solar developer. The state recently passed a law that allows cranberry growers to put solar panels on their cranberry bogs. Somehow they've determined that that's good for the cranberries. The cranberry growers must be a strong, strong lobby. So this developer wants to build an 8 megawatt facility off of Fairleigh Lane and Bay Road on the bogs down there. And it would mean a $200,000 payment a year to the town. So his concern was that National Grid people are queuing up with National Grid to sell the power to the National Grid. So in order to get in that queue, he needs his approvals. And our bylaw right now says that you cannot put solar facilities in wetlands. And bogs are currently considered a wetland. So we would have to amend our bylaw to allow that based on the new state regulation, whatever. And also in our solar bylaw, in order to be a green community, you have to allow solar by right. It can be, you still have to go to the planning board for a site plan, but it's not a special permit. We have to do that, and then in May, we'd have to do the stretch code that is a requirement on how homes and buildings are insulated. It's a stronger code that we will have to adopt, and if we do those two things, we qualify for grants under the Green Communities program. So anyways, the planning board will be having a public hearing on the bylaw change, and also we will need an article to approve the pilot for $200,000 a year. And I believe there's an article, there was $65,000 appropriated for the town common fence, and it may be coming in a little less, and they're putting lights up down there now, so they want to put those up, so it would be to repurpose so that the $65,000 can be used for other improvements on the town common.
What do we give them,
We have a
100,000?
placeholder for any prior year bills, but I don't know if we're gonna have any, but we just put it there.
I was just gonna say, was that 100,000 we gave the town common?
I don't remember, I thought it was 65.
It was
I'd have to
100,
look.
okay. But just getting back, that's a big project, 8 megawatts?
Yes,
That's a lot bigger than Hill Street,
it's
a lot
huge.
bigger than John Scott as well, right?
Yeah, it is a big
Yeah,
project.
it's huge.
They agreed to pay us $200,000 a year, or whatever the assessors had the value at, or whichever was higher, and the $200,000 a year is higher, so.
Wow.
Is that, I'm assuming that's town land? Or?
No,
No, it's
No.
no, it's a private bog owner. They're gonna buy that
So is it just a concern about timing?
to get in
Get
the
in the
queue
queue.
with National Grid. They said if they don't get in there by the end of January, they'll never get approved.
Walter?
Are you saying that they're gonna continue operating the bog
Yes,
with the solar panels?
yeah. They say it works, but
If it works, great.
yeah,
So who
Harvest it.
who gets the energy credits?
whoever,
Right, who-
the owner of, or whoever
Right.
wants to, they'll try and sell some of the credits, I'm sure.
okay. So we're doing it on behalf of,
Walter?
What kind of quorum do we need to vote on that?
At town meeting? No, we don't have a quorum requirement.
Okay. That's what I was thinking. If 6 of us show up from the finance committee, we're okay.
So, one meeting,
Should be.
good to go?
And my big concern is I have to check with the planning board when their hearing's gonna be to make sure we have their vote and the selectmen's vote before you meet on the 19th.
Okay.
One other one. Are there any other solar projects in the pipeline?
Not that I know of, other than we're looking at putting one down on John Scott Boulevard behind the Water and Sewer Department. Maybe we should get those bogs operational, so we won't have an issue.
All right. So the next meeting will be on the 19th. If you can't make it, let me know. What? One down. We don't have minutes.
You will have them next meeting.
Wait a sec, didn't someone else take minutes of meeting? Do we have?
Yeah, my notebook at home on my desk.
All right.
I'll work on it.
Can you get those over to Aaron?
All right.
Bill, what do I do? To type these up and send them to you?
You can send them to just the whole group,
Okay.
just so everybody has them, and on the 19th, we can approve them. I'm gonna assume that they're gonna be, perfect. First time, perfect.
I'm crushing this over here. Yeah.
I'm really, I don't know why number 5 is here, so unless anybody wants to get into it, I was gonna skip it, at least for now. Anything else anybody wants to discuss? No. So, I will take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All right, then. Thank you.
Good.